Well, it was both a productive and an intense meeting. Productive meeting on the government shutdown. We are making good progress. We made it very clear. The Speaker said unequivocally he wants to avoid a government shutdown.
We believe that we can get to agreement on these issues and prevent a government shutdown, and that's our first responsibility.
President Biden met with GOP Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and congressional leaders at the White House earlier, trying to hammer out a deal ahead of the March 1st partial government shutdown deadline. Now, whether or not the deal happens is anybody's guess at this point, but Johnson's historically thin GOP majority is continuing to complicate the negotiations, with his right flank urging him to hold strong to get cuts in government funding. Over in the Senate, meanwhile, Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is warning his Republican colleagues in the House that if they shut down the government, they might get blamed by voters in the midterms. Joining me now with the latest is The Hill's Aris Folley. She covers all things budget and economy for us at The Hill. Aris, thanks for being here. Deal or no deal on the government shutdown?
I think there's just a lot of uncertainty around Capitol Hill. Talking to senators today, I think there's just a lot of questions as to whether they'll be able to strike a funding deal in time, particularly as both sides are kind of duking it out over these partisan riders that Republicans are pushing for as part of these funding bills that Democrats are kind of decrying as poison pill riders. So it's still a lot of question as to whether they'll be able to strike a deal in time by March 1st.
Switching gears now, primary voters heading to the polls in Michigan today, where progressive Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib is telling Democrats to vote uncommitted in the Democratic primary. Now, she says it's an effort to send Biden a message for backing Israel in its war against Hamas, the terror organization that attacked Israel on October 7th. So Biden, meanwhile, told reporters earlier that he's optimistic there will be a ceasefire, at least a short-term ceasefire, by early next week. Take a listen.
Can you give us a sense of when you think that ceasefire will start, sir?
Well, I hope by the beginning of the weekend. The end of the weekend.
Aris, so Tlaib could prove potentially more dangerous for Biden's re-election effort than RFK Jr. Explain.
Right now, it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Biden does have, of course, a significant lead. I don't think a lot of people are thinking that there's going to be this upset in Michigan. But I think the real concern is that Michigan is such a key state during an election. And there is also there's no secret that Biden's approval ratings have been slipping, right? And there's been obviously dissatisfaction with voters in his handling of the Israeli-Palestine conflict, particularly among younger voters. So that's definitely something to keep watch, especially as this pressure is growing right now. And also as this conversation around whether there will be a ceasefire anytime soon.
So the economy, meanwhile, has been a huge issue. The U.S. government and 9 states are suing to block a $25 billion Kroger-Albertsons supermarket deal. So what impact is this going to have on Americans' grocery shopping?
I think the concern so far from what I've been seeing from just advocates is that how does this impact competition, right? Both companies operate thousands of stores across the country. That includes overlap in some regions. Could that lead to less grocery stores, right, in your city? Could that lead to higher prices? These are all just questions that people are concerned about how that would shake out.
Aris Folley, thank you so much. Excellent reporting. The Hill's Aris Folley joining us today on Daily Debrief. Thank you, Aris.
Thanks.
We're just more than a week away from Biden's March 7th State of the Union address, but at least one Republican lawmaker says that it should be canceled. Congressman Scott Perry, the Republican from Pennsylvania and former Freedom Caucus chairman, said that it should be canceled as a point of leverage due to the crisis at the border. Remember, then Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi delayed former President Donald Trump's State of the Union in 2019 because of a government shutdown. Meanwhile, Congressman Ken Buck, a GOPer from Colorado, filed a resolution to remove Biden, citing the 25th Amendments. Why? Because of his mental and physical health. Buck cited special counsel Robert Hur's report that cleared Biden of criminal wrongdoing in his handling of classified documents, but that also stated that Biden struggled to remember key dates and events. Under the 25th Amendment, the vice president leads an effort within the president's cabinet to remove the president from office if determined the president is unfit to serve. Florida legislators are delaying a fetal personhood bill after the fallout from the Alabama State Supreme Court ruling on IVF. The Florida legislation would let parents get financial damages for the wrongful death of unborn children. Similarly, the Alabama State Supreme Court decision ruled that frozen embryos could be counted as children under Alabama's Wrongful Death Act. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer criticized conservatives' recent actions on IVF in remarks on the Senate floor.
Today, the United States is an embarrassment to the world when it comes to reproductive freedom.
Since the Alabama decision, at least 3 IVF clinics have stopped services in the state. Democratic New Jersey Senate candidate Andy Kim is suing New Jersey election officials for its ballot design. Kim says that the New Jersey ballot is unconstitutionally designed in much of the state and that it gives preferential placement to party insiders. Kim is going up against party favorite Tammy Murphy, the wife of the late New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy. Kim and Murphy are facing off in a June 4th primary to replace Senator Bob Menendez, who's facing several criminal indictments but has yet to say if he's seeking re-election. New Jersey's Senate race is going to be one of the most closely watched in the upcoming elections.
We certainly do welcome the vote in the Hungarian parliament today and look forward to it being finalized, and are ready to receive the instruments here in Washington and welcome Sweden as the 32nd member of NATO.
Sweden is joining the North American Treaty Organization. It's the first time in 200 years that Sweden has joined a military alliance, and it becomes the 32nd nation in the global alliance. Sweden is geographically close to Russia, and the Swedes have grown increasingly worried about Russia's war against Ukraine. In order for a country to join NATO, every single member of the alliance must vote to approve the measure. Sweden becomes the 4th country since 2017 to join NATO. One of Alexei Navalny's top aides says that Navalny was in the final stage of negotiations to be released in a prisoner swap before he died. Navalny's aide, Maria Pevchik, said in a YouTube video that Navalny's release was being negotiated along with 2 of the other U.S. citizens whose release was also discussed. Navalny was Russia President Vladimir Putin's top opposition leader who was imprisoned and died earlier this month. President Biden has since met with Navalny's family and responded with 500 additional sanctions against Russia.
I'm happy to share with you that starting in August this year, the Albert Einstein College of Medicine will be tuition-free.
That was live reaction from students at Albert Einstein Medical School in New York City when they learned that tuition is now going to be free for them after an historic $1 billion donation. Ruth Gottsman's donation made it possible for the $59,000 annual tuition to be free now, and she made the donation in honor of her late husband, David Gottsman, who was a businessman who made his money as an early investor for Berkshire Hathaway. And that's it for today's Daily Debrief. My name is Kevin Cirilli. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to The Hill's YouTube channel, and come back here soon for the intersection between politics and policy.